All
Oh,
right, welcome to another episode of Beyond the Lines. I'm Captain Gene Hammond. As you know, a broadcast or a podcast done by Lines of Liberty. As you can see, we are dedicated to supporting our veterans and today, especially our first responders. As you know, Lines of Liberty offers fishing trips and outdoor adventures just as an outlet for something very important that a lot of us forget about, and that's our mental health. It just gives us a moment to recharge, be on the water, and relax, get all that negative stuff off the phone, and it brings a community together. So on this episode today, we're going to be talking to Mr. Rich Alvarez. He is a first responder, wounded first responder, and runs a pretty awesome nonprofit. And
thanks for having me on, Gene. I appreciate it.
yeah. Mike, you got a call to action there?
Well, absolutely. Don't forget, folks, that we are a nonprofit, so we need you. We need you to subscribe and like the video. We need you to check out our About section where all of our socials are at, and follow us everywhere, guys. Anything that you do for us on social media obviously helps the algorithm find us more. And the more the algorithm finds us, the better chance we have of monetizing this thing and making sure that we put as many veterans and first responders on the water as humanly possible. So,
Yeah,
all right,
buddy.
Captain
Get
Gino,
on
take her away.
Yep, Mr. Rich Alvarez, as you can see in the top of the screen there. You are a retired or a wounded police officer, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. So just tell us about your service. How do you get into being a police officer?
Sure.
What path drove you to do what you did before, and where?
Okay. Yeah. Well, like a dummy, I dropped out of college. So when I got married, I was looking for the best job I could find without a college degree that had good benefits, that kind of thing. So it wasn't. I had always been into martial arts as a kid. I had done some bouncing in bars. I worked as a security guard in the hospital. And so I always had that kind of drive to go into that sort of field. I was up in the Cleveland, Ohio area. Started out as a CO in the prison system. We were the reception center for all of Northern Ohio. So I got to see just about everybody that came through, including Jeffrey Dahmer,
Wow.
which is my claim to fame. I got to meet Jeffrey Dahmer. So I was on the disturbance control team there. I had actually visited Lucasville Prison prior to the riots there, where an officer was killed. And I decided a couple years into the career that it really wasn't the one for me. I wanted to become either a firefighter or a police officer.
Yep.
So I went to school and became an EMT. And I enjoyed working for a private ambulance company, but I just didn't do as well on the fire tests as I did the police tests. So I ended up being a transit police officer in Cleveland, Ohio. We worked all the buses and trains in inner city Cleveland and East Cleveland, as well as we were a regional police department that covered northeastern Ohio. So there was very few agencies like that that can cover multiple jurisdictions, and we were one of them. So I ended up becoming a training officer there. Had a lot of harrowing experiences doing that. And then I transferred to an inner ring suburb.
Okay. Let's talk about one of those experiences. Can you tell us any exciting stories from being a police officer there?
Well, the very first call I ever went on, Lights and Sirens, was a guy that got hit by a train.
Oh,
He had
wow.
he had waited for the Norfolk and Southern train to go by and stepped out right into the path of one of our transit trains. And it zipped him open right at the waist, grabbed him by the belt, and he, believe it or not, he was still walking around when we got there, and his intestines were hanging down to his knees. So I'm like, yes, this is the career for me. There's my EMT work and my police work all combined in one.
Wow.
And
So
I knew
that was your first assignment, basically your first call.
that's
Are you sure?
correct. Yeah. So, it was quite an introduction. I grew up in a pretty upper middle class background. I hadn't had a lot of crazy things happen in my life, and to get thrust into this situation in the inner city was really mind blowing to begin with.
Well, I tell you what, that sounds a lot like something else I know about being deployed in the desert and seeing stuff like that. It's got to take a toll on you mentally too. I mean, that
Sure.
stuff like that just sticks with you forever.
Yeah,
Stuff you
yeah.
never forget.
We had lots of suicides, some homicides. The way when people decide to commit suicide by train, it's never a pleasant experience.
Oh, so that was not an accident.
No, that one was, but I've seen
okay.
other ones that were not. We had one lady that straddled the tracks, and the train literally split her in half, and then dragged her a couple miles down the tracks. And the
Wow.
birds were picking up pieces of her. So, we had homicides. I was nearly shot and killed. Bullet missed me and my partner went right between our heads as we were trying to find a guy that had shot at our car just randomly while we were at a stoplight. Had another one where a guy was 6'6", 360 pounds, nearly beat and choked me to death and tried to take my gun. And had it not been for a passerby, I probably wouldn't be here today. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, the country itself feels a little different today. And
yeah.
I used to say the last 3 or 4 years, who wants to be a police officer these days?
No,
Like,
and
who wants to raise their right hand and be a police officer?
yeah, the guy I went to the academy with, he's still doing it after 30 years. And I don't know how or why he still does it, other than he's got kids in college, maybe. But it is just it's changed immensely. There's no gratitude. There's no respect for authority of any kind. And then you have a government that's not real super supportive of the profession. They start prosecuting people for doing their jobs, and it can be really demoralizing. So they've had it's had a real impact on recruitment. Most law enforcement agencies today are struggling to fill open positions.
No doubt. No doubt.
It's a really good point. I guess it kind of is a pretty good segue for us too, right? Like we'll tell you because we had the veterans experience that a big reason we do this is it kind of had been feeding our souls, right? To get out there and get that relief from being on the water and that kind of stuff. And it was kind of the motivation for us. And we just assumed I guess Scott has actually experienced both in our group from the firefighter aspect and from the veterans. It's got to be similar, right? With the first responders, the police, that order. I mean, it's got to be
Yeah, I would
one
say
of the reasons you do what you do. I guess is what I'm saying, and that's where we kind of want to
sure.
get you to transition to next is why Peacekeeper Initiative.
Yeah. How does
Well,
that get started? How does that get started?
You have a
well, I
full
retired on
lesson.
Yeah, I retired on disability. Part of it was physical injuries, but part of it was also PTSD. And when I first got diagnosed, my captain overheard me telling somebody in the locker room, and he pulled me into the office and he said, "Don't ever tell anybody that again." And it got to the point where I started drinking to deal with the PTSD, and my marriage started to fall apart. My kids no longer wanted to talk to me anymore, and I got into some trouble. And eventually, it led to a suicide attempt by proxy. And by that, I mean we were me and a roommate, because I was in the middle of a divorce. We're both ex cops. He had been on the SWAT team, and we went out drinking. I don't remember really much of the second half of the day, but apparently, according to some witnesses who then left, we were playing Russian roulette because neither one of us wanted to be around. And I got down towards the end and couldn't do it. And I asked him to do it, and he obliged me, and he shot me in the back of the head, right behind my ear. shattered my orbital socket in my jaw. Parts of it came out my throat, cut my tongue. I was breathing through a tube in my neck. He also saved my life. He threw me in the back of his pickup truck with the police chasing him, drove me drunk to the hospital, and they were able to stabilize me before they life flighted me to a trauma center and saved my life. They reconstructed my face. This whole area down here was completely destroyed. I still have some nerve damage there where the eye droops a little bit, but it's certainly better than the alternative. And so,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm very happy to know you, and I'm very glad, very thankful you're still with us.
Yeah.
Amen.
The road to recovery is a tough one, you know what I mean? And it really involved, a perfect triangle, I call it. There's a three-legged stool, and if you're missing one of those legs, you're going to fail. It's going to tip over. So, I worked on my mental health with a therapist. I worked on my physical health to try to get back to being able to function because I had been bedridden for over a month. And I refocused on spiritual health, which I think a lot of people neglect. And I ended up getting invited to a friend's church and started going there and really, really enjoyed it. And those things combined. And I went to AA too. That helped. I was sober for a couple years. Found out I wasn't an alcoholic, but it helped me get to the bottom of a lot of the issues that I had by especially getting rid of the old baggage from the past that was dragging me down. And so when I look back, I realized after that what the captain said really stuck in my mind. And what I decided to do when I realized there weren't a lot of supportive services for first responders was to start a nonprofit that could take people that have been there, done that, and healed to help mentor folks that were still struggling. And it was important to me that it was outside of the workplace so that they would feel more comfortable to come into that atmosphere that somebody's not going to go tell their boss. Somebody's not going to tell their fellow officers because, a lot of departments have internal peer support programs. But I know from my perspective, I don't think I would have completely opened up to somebody who was a coworker.
Yeah.
And then doing some of the stuff we do is therapeutic to me too. So, it's really turned out to be a blessing.
That's a good point that you make there with the at least police officers in the military. They really push now the fact about suicide awareness and making sure and having people around. The police don't really have that, do they? There really isn't anything for them. Like you said, your job is just if you show that you maybe have some issues, then they may take you off the force, and that's your livelihood. So
Right. Exactly.
little initiatives like you have going helps. I don't know if the police in the future here are gonna try to help allow people to be a little bit more anonymous when they're talking to people and not have it go back or
Yeah.
anything. But that is just crazy because it's no different than the military, and sometimes other instances the police officers see a lot more than the
Yeah.
military do. So it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, imagine this. It's a 25-year long career, 30-year long career that is, I would equate it to like a low intensity conflict, particularly if you're working in the inner city, where you're seen as the enemy and an occupying force instead of somebody there to help out. When I transferred to an inner city suburb and they loved their police department, my arm got tired from waving to everybody as they were waving back. But, working for the transit police, it was, I had a little, probably a 10-year-old kid flip me off as I was driving along, so that was the kind of greetings you typically got there. So it was a totally different atmosphere, but most of my trauma probably came from the transit police. And that's where I saw the most serious stuff. And, I have talked to police departments as, I do go in and give talks about the services that we offer. and they are making progress. Fire departments have been light years ahead of the police departments in this area. And I think police departments, especially down here in Florida, seem to be catching on. At least some of the ones I've talked to, Largo and Clearwater and places like that, they seem to get it.
Yeah, so you do talk to a lot of the
So
local police departments in the area.
Yeah, I have.
As a part of the Peacekeeper initiative, you try to stay in touch with those guys, right?
Yeah, so I got to be able to reach out to them, and I know some of them follow me on Facebook.
let's talk
and
about that real
kind of
quick, because I've met you.
Sure.
I've stepping all over. I'm,
No, go ahead.
I'm familiar with your mission from meeting you before, right?
Sure.
And tell the audience that we have today. Tell us a little bit about what Peacekeeper is doing. Like,
Sure.
I mean, I know you're going in, you're having these conferences, but let's let the audience know exactly what you're doing, and maybe another officer somewhere will listen to this and say, hey, I need to get those guys into my into my fold here.
Yeah. So some of the cool stuff we do, we partner with nonprofits such as Lines of Liberty to go fishing. I have Heroes Dive Center, which is a dive shop. I put some veterans through open water diving courses there. So we do that, and we try to, introduce a peer support person while we're doing that. It doesn't always work out, and maybe they just get the relief from that particular activity as opposed to deciding to pair up with a mentor. But that's okay too. We're fine with that. We also have a couple of events every year where we work with the motorcycle community, which is often composed of a lot of veterans. And we have a couple rides, poker runs every year. And it also gives us an opportunity to get the word out about veteran and first responder mental health. And then this year, we're going to be offering, as soon as I go ahead and get certified, we're going to be offering mental health first aid when I become an instructor in that. I'm certified in it now, but that's an internationally recognized credential that allows you, a lay person, to not diagnose somebody, but be aware of the signs and symptoms of mental health issues, what the different mental health issues are, and then what you can do as a lay person to intervene, recommending maybe they go see a therapist, or, God forbid, they're threatening to commit suicide, making sure that you can get them to a facility where they can get the help that they need. So that sort of thing.
That's good. So, talking about the Peacekeeper initiative, what are some of the biggest challenges that you face as a nonprofit? I know what we have, whether it be raising money or
fundraising,
right?
Oh, yeah.
Fundraising. Along with us, Lines of Liberty, please check out Peacekeeper initiative. And I know you said you had a few events coming up. I think
Yep.
Scott has a slide here for you that you can talk about.
Right there.
Yep.
So
that's our upcoming event. I believe, what is it, April 19th?
So what happens here? What happens at an event like this? What are you doing?
So we'll have a poker run to kick things off. So, and you really don't even need a motorcycle. You can use whatever vehicle you want. The poker run is kind of fun. You get a sheet with all the different cards, potential hands you can get. Whoever you go to different stops along the way, and you draw a card and they check it off. And then when you get back, whoever has the best hand wins a prize, and whoever has the worst hand wins a prize. We'll have vendors there, music, and we'll also have a bunch of raffle items to raffle off. So,
Yeah, it's a good time. We were there last year and set up a booth. It was a really good time.
yeah.
Good stuff. But let's talk about our fishing trips that we've taken, right?
One of my favorite things.
Yeah. So these trips that we've done in the past with you, can you talk about the guys that are on this trip and how they got invited to go on these fishing trips with Lines of Liberty and talk
Sure.
about the day,
Sure. There are various first responders and veterans that I've been in contact with. And, there's one guy that's going to be coming on the next trip that is a corrections officer, a veteran, and a former police officer. So he's a Marine gunnery sergeant, I believe. And he's one of my peer support people, and he's going to be bringing one of the guys that he's working with. And we'll have a Largo police officer that lost everything during the hurricanes, and just give him a little bit of peace of mind. He loves to go fishing, that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a good time.
So the guys that have been on this trip, do they still talk about the trip or when the
Oh
next
yeah,
one's going to be? And
yeah,
yeah, I think you fought that shark that showed up in the slideshow there. You must have fought that thing for an hour.
yeah,
And,
yeah. I
and
had
you
to
were,
trade off with my friend there so that we were both had some chances to reel on it. My
yeah,
arms were burning.
it's good, man. I mean, that's what it's all about. And
Yeah,
when you're out there on the water, um, just being on the water, you don't have to be catching fish. Just it's therapeutic. That's why we
it
do it.
is. Water is
Really
definitely
good.
therapy. A lot of
Yeah.
my activities surround that, and we also partner with an equine therapy place as well, which is really cool. But to me, water has always been a place of peace and a way to get away and just really enjoy nature in its purest form.
That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And we have another trip coming up in February, right?
That's correct. Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
That's
We were supposed
we're
to go
looking forward.
yesterday. We
Yeah,
were
we
supposed
were
to go.
supposed to go Saturday, I think, and
That's right.
just the weather would not cooperate.
Yeah, it's just blowing too much. I mean, there's a certain point when you get offshore and it's windy and cold, it stops being fun anymore. So
Right.
if you can believe that about fishing, I don't
Yeah,
know
we
if
want these guys. The whole point is for them to be able to relax and have a good time.
that's right.
So
That's right. We take the bigger boat, we can get more people out, and we're happy to do it for you guys. We are. I really enjoy. I enjoy those trips quite a bit.
yeah,
A
me
lot.
too.
I don't know, Scott and Mike,
So
if you
Rich,
had
let's
any stuff for them.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Mike. Go ahead.
go
sure,
for 'em, Mike.
Rich, if I'm a local PD or corrections or firefighters and they're interested in just talking to you about their services, what's the best way to make contact? Is it at the department level, or is it maybe it should be done to the individual level? I mean, what's the best way to reach out to Peacekeeper and get that engagement?
I think the best way is on an individual level. It's kind of the point of having a outside the workplace place where they can feel comfortable. You can always call.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh no, he froze.
See if we can bring him back here.
Well, if he
Uh-oh.
if he drops off completely, then we'll make sure that we post in the
He'll be back.
with this video. We'll make sure we get his website out there.
Yeah.
So
And
I do have a website up that I pulled off of there, and you can reach Peacekeeper initiatives. On there, you have a Facebook page, the YouTube and Instagram. Hashtag Peacekeeper USA.
There
See
you
on the
go.
screen now.
I want to caveat that point you were making, Mike. Not well, and to follow on what Rich was saying there, if he comes back real quick, sometimes it takes the family member to realize that a veteran or a first responder needs to reach out. And if you're a family member out there that you might have a first responder or there he is, struggling a little bit, call us, call Lines of Liberty, call Peacekeeper. Sometimes the officer, fireman, or veteran, whoever it may be, won't reach out themselves. So sometimes it takes the family members to do that. You back there, Rich?
Oh, hold on. Working on it.
But
I'm working on it.
yeah,
There he is.
what you're saying is factual. It's unfortunate, but a lot of folks. I mean, there's still the alpha male culture where, it's seen as a sign of weakness in some, and even just in general by society. Unfortunately, mental health is often seen as a sign of weakness. People don't understand it. They don't understand that in many cases it's a actual medical problem where there's a chemical imbalance in somebody's brain that can cause these things. Trauma has been shown to reshape neural pathways, and you can end up in a negative feedback loop. There's ways to overcome that. And we can certainly recommend folks to therapists that we work with. But yeah, I mean, if a family member needs to call, that's a wonderful way to get somebody involved. But ultimately, the person has to decide that they need help. And, unfortunately, I was fortunate that I survived it, but so many folks don't every year. And there's just too many suicides between veterans and first responders that, organizations like ours really, hopefully make a difference. And I know one guy just recently was referred by one of our sponsors, Toyota of Tampa Bay. And he was a veteran and he was struggling, thinking about committing suicide. And we were able to talk him down, get him the help that he needed. He eventually did get Baker acted, but it sent him on the right path where he got the right medication, the right therapy, and the right counseling. And now he's thriving.
Sounds like you saved a life.
Yeah.
So, and I've been there. My story's well documented out there. If you're a veteran, first responder, whatever, struggling, and you go and you do try, to seek help, don't give up on it so easily. I'll tell you this right now. The first 2 or 3 times I went to PTSD therapy at the VA hospital, I walked out.
Yeah.
I walked out. But if you stick with it, it works. Reach out. There's plenty of us out here to help.
And if your therapist that you get you're not gelling or getting along, find a new one.
Another.
There's a lot of them out there, but don't let that stop you. Same thing if you get put on medication and the medication feels weird or is not working for you, talk about it with your psychiatrist. They can oftentimes recommend different meds or adjust in the dosages. And sometimes one of the things I found out is it's not an exact science. So sometimes they have to experiment with different medications to see what works best with your body. Those things are really important. Like you said, don't get discouraged, because when you do find the right therapist or the right psychiatrist, it works. And
that is so 100% true. I went through, it took me 15 years to get through any kind of program, and I probably went through 15 different counselors.
Yeah. But you found the right one eventually, right?
Oh man. I didn't like her at first, but she was very good about just peeling back those layers of onion and getting to the heart of things.
Yeah, I have a great one now myself, and she is no bullshit. You know what I mean? Excuse my French, but and she told me that up front. She goes, "I'm not going to BS you, and you don't BS me. Call me out on my BS if you see it, and I'm going to do the same to you." And I was like, "Beautiful. That's exactly what works with me."
Yeah, just stick with it.
I need somebody to be blunt and honest with me. Sometimes I'm kind of thick-headed, so that works for me. It might not work for other people, so find a therapist that's different than that.
Absolutely. A rich part of Gene's vision for this, as we got this kind of kicked off in early to mid 2024, was just to go further than just the fishing and the outdoors activities. It was to connect with groups like yours. And I think it's really important for a community that when we have organizations that have similar mission statements, that we spend some time together, like doing a podcast and spreading the word, right? Because there's going to be things that you're really good at, and there's going to be things that we're really good at. And all that matters is that we are a resource for our heroes, right?
Right.
That we collectively are out there. There's no competing. We're all non-for-profit, right? It's about getting to that bottom line and saving a life, kind of like you showed us out there earlier.
Yeah, it really is.
We look forward to doing a lot more with you. I know we're doing the fishing and stuff, but we want to show up to your events. We want to get in your Kool-Aid a little bit more and Maybe
And
bring you
vice
some more
versa.
resources, right?
We'd like to be more involved with some of your events as well.
Good.
One of the things that I can say is that, especially here in Pinellas County, Florida, there's a lot of resources, and just learning about what each of them does. So, like you said, if you're better at one thing and they're better at something else, you can work together instead of competing. And I think so far, my experience has been fantastic. Most of the nonprofits that deal with this demographic are really supportive of one another.
You have to be. You have to be. We basically all have the same mission statement, and we have the same goals.
Yeah.
Just to help, same goals. But yeah, that's a great podcast. Get on peacekeeperinitiative.org. Is that right? And
Yes, that's correct. No, PeaceKeeperUSA.org. I'm
there you go.
sorry.
peacekeeperusa.org. They need support. We need support at LinesofLiberty.org. And what a great conversation. Thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, guys.
Thank you. All right.
Thanks.
Hey, if you
No problem, Rich.
enjoyed
If you
this,
know other
yeah,
organizations who need the exposure, send them our way, and we'll take them through what we took you. There's a little bit of a lag, so I keep stepping all over Gino.
yeah,
Oh,
no
that's-
worries.
What were you saying, Gene? I'm sorry.
I was just saying, if you enjoy content like this, if you're out there listening, please subscribe, share it with a friend, leave us a review, tell us what you'd like to hear. And, always follow us on the website and social media. Every little bit helps. And, if you care to donate to nonprofits like this, we're out there. PeaceKeeperUSA.org and LinesofLiberty.org. We always need your help. But, and, again, thank you for listening to Beyond the Lines, and with communities like this, we're going to make a difference. So we'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you.